D.H. Lawrence once used a phrase that I like a lot called spirit of place. And that speaks to the importance of location for a story, its possibilities, as a matter of fact. If we're talking about what a character can and cannot do, obviously what that character can and cannot do is different, maybe in some part of Alaska than it is in Arizona. In other words, just the physical possibilities of the world in which the character lives, as well as the seasons. I set my last novel, Dreamer, in Chicago, and there were reasons I did that. It was the first Northern campaign of Martin Luther King Jr., and he chose Chicago because he had heard it was the most segregated major northern city, and I think he was probably right. But I could have written about King, in the story that I told in Dreamer, during his southern campaigns, because that's where he spent most of his time. But I was what was I? I was a senior in high school in January of 1966 when King came to Chicago. I know Chicago. I grew up in Evanston. My wife's from South Chicago. I worked as an intern on the Chicago Tribune. I know the history of Chicago. I know the people of Chicago. So that knowledge of place was extremely helpful to me when I'm writing about King. That's why I chose that moment. Also because the last 2 years of his life were some of the most difficult years of his life.